Some wrestling stunts are designed to shock the audience, but every once in a while, a stunt crosses a line and becomes something far more dangerous.
The only time I ever injured anybody with the hammer was with Taker. He was going to put me up for last ride, and when I went up top and hit him in the head with it, I held onto the foam part to protect him, and the handle went all the way through the foam part and cut him from like here to here.
So let's start with the moment everything fell apart, the match that should have never happened. Super Showdown 2019, Goldberg versus Undertaker. The match begins where everything starts falling apart. No intro, no warning, just two legends stepping into a ring built for younger bodies only to find out in real time that time itself has teeth. Goldberg versus Undertaker wasn't the dream match fans thought they wanted. It was a dare disguised as nostalgia, a gamble disguised as spectacle, a slow-motion disaster disguised as a main event. The WWE wanted two icons. Saudi Arabia wanted star power. What the world got instead was a stunt reel of everything that can go wrong when pride outruns preparation and when two aging warriors push themselves far past the point of safety. The danger began before Goldberg even reached the ring. Backstage, he revived an old ritual, headbutting the locker room door. At 30, that was intensity. At 52, after years of inactivity, it was a concussion waiting to happen. When his forehead split open and he staggered, production staff exchanged silent glances, but the show pressed on. The Undertaker watched Goldberg walk down the ramp already bleeding and already dazed, and that should have been the first clue that the night was about to turn dark. The opening spears were the final flash of the Goldberg fans remembered explosive, violent, dominant. For 10 seconds, the illusion held, but the moment the Undertaker sat up and stared into Goldberg's eyes, you could already see the exhaustion. Goldberg's breathing was heavy, his footwork uneven. The Undertaker tried guiding him into an old WCW-style knee bar spot, but Goldberg's positioning was off, his base shaky, his balance gone, and suddenly the Undertaker was using his free leg to correct Goldberg's placement, just so the move didn't look like complete chaos. It was the first misfire, but it wouldn't be the last. Then came the turning point, the corner spear into the steel post. The Undertaker slid aside. Goldberg didn't slow. He launched himself headfirst into the unforgiving metal at full speed.
Here comes Goldberg.
The noise was sickening, an echo that rang across the arena. Goldberg collapsed instantly, arms limp, eyes vacant. The concussion hit like a bullet. His equilibrium evaporated, his timing dissolved, his ability to protect himself disappeared instantly. And yet, the match kept going. What followed was not wrestling, it was survival. The Undertaker went for a chokeslam, but Goldberg couldn't jump, couldn't lift his weight, couldn't coordinate his landing. The result was a chokeslam so limp and awkward that it made Taker look shocked even in character. Then came the tombstone, but Goldberg didn't tuck his head. The Undertaker dropped and Goldberg's skull hit the mat first. The moment stopped feeling like wrestling and turned frighteningly real. Goldberg was visibly unsteady and the jackhammer went wrong, dropping the Undertaker straight onto his head. Backstage, fear replaced excitement as agents reportedly stood up, realizing how close this came to disaster. The planned finish collapsed into chaos. Moves broke down, both men fell awkwardly, and when Undertaker finally hit a chokeslam for the pin, the crowd didn't cheer, they exhaled. After the bell, Goldberg couldn't stand, and Undertaker's frustration was impossible to hide. The darkest part wasn't the botches, it was the realization that two legends barely escaped a match they should have never been in. King of the Ring, 1998, Hell in a Cell, Undertaker versus Mankind. When fans talk about Hell in a Cell 1998, the world remembers one thing: Mick Foley being thrown off, then through the cell.
Up on the other side,
But buried beneath the chaos, the blood, the thumbtacks, and the legend is an injury almost everyone missed. An injury to the Undertaker, the man standing on top of the cell, guiding an entire match around an opponent who had already taken one fall no human being should survive, let alone two. Let's get this clear. The roof panel was not meant to collapse. Not that night. Not during that chokeslam, not under those conditions. When Taker grabbed Foley for that second elevated slam, the panel gave way like wet cardboard and suddenly Foley was gone, swallowed by the darkness beneath them. The entire arena gasped. Jim Ross broke into panic. Terry Funk ran ringside without permission. But the Undertaker, he was still 16 feet above the ring, and now stranded. Here's the part fans forget. The original plan was for the Undertaker to climb down the cage wall safely, step by step. But the moment the panel collapsed, everything changed. Producers were yelling in headsets, referees were scrambling, Foley wasn't moving, so the Undertaker, acting on instinct, didn't climb down the side. He stepped toward the edge, held the support bar, and dropped. A full-body drop from the top of the cell with no stable footing and no planned landing. When his boots hit the mat, His ankle rolled inward with all 320 pounds behind it. The pain was instant, a cold, sharp jolt shooting up his leg. The Undertaker knew immediately he had fractured his ankle, but with Foley unconscious, the match couldn't stop. Taker didn't even look at the referee. He looked straight at Foley, trying to figure out whether the man was even alive. You can see it on the footage. The Undertaker, slightly limping, shifting weight, bracing on the ropes. He's not selling, he's surviving. Imagine trying to climb down from the cell, walk, run ropes, lift 280 pounds of dead weight and perform high-impact bumps, all with a fractured ankle. The Undertaker did that for another 10 minutes in one of the most dangerous matches ever recorded. Every time he planted his right foot, you can see the hesitation. Every time he bent down for a cover, his face tightens from real pain, not theatrics. The Undertaker didn't go to the hospital that night. Foley needed the ambulance more. Instead, Taker iced it, wrapped it, and continued the storyline the very next week because the Attitude Era schedule never ended. A fractured ankle wasn't going to stop him, not that night. Not with Foley nearly dying twice, and that's the part that makes this injury so haunting. The moment fans saw a man nearly die, The Undertaker was wrestling through a silent break of his own and never told anyone until years later. 1995. Feud: Undertaker vs Mabel, Viscera. Before concussions and pyrotechnics, there was the orbital fracture, the injury that permanently altered Undertaker's face. Mabel, one of the most notoriously unsafe big men in WWE history, threw a spinning clothesline meant to hit Taker's chest. Instead, it smashed directly into his eye socket. The force was catastrophic.
Yes, look what they've done to my Undertaker!
Backstage doctors confirmed the grim truth. His orbital bone was crushed, his cheekbone fractured, his eye sagging inward from the impact. Surgery was mandatory. Metal mesh was inserted to rebuild the fragile bone structure. Undertaker's face, his identity, was permanently altered. He returned wearing the grey protective mask, a haunting, almost gothic symbol of his durability. Fans thought it was a character choice. It wasn't. It was a necessity to prevent total blindness. And every move, every strike, every bump in the months that followed risked shattering the repair work inside his skull. Later injuries would reopen the same wound, proving the damage was never fully gone. Mabel's reckless strike didn't just injure Undertaker, it changed him. It created a vulnerability that would follow him for decades, making every face-targeting move a silent threat. Elimination Chamber 2010 entrance, Pyro accident. The Elimination Chamber is already a structure built on danger, but The Undertaker's most terrifying moment didn't happen inside it. It happened on the stage during his entrance. Pyrotechnicians had placed flame bursts too close to Taker's path. He warned them earlier. That day they were dangerously positioned. The warning went unheeded. As The Undertaker stepped onto the stage, flames erupted directly beneath and around him, point-blank bursts meant to fire feet away. His coat caught fire instantly. His arm ignited next. His skin burned beneath the layers of leather and fabric. He ripped the flaming coat off and rushed to the ring, not in character, but in raw survival mode. Inside the chamber, he repeatedly doused himself with water between spots, trying to soothe the blistering pain. The burns were severe enough to require immediate treatment backstage, despite the WWE publicly downplaying the injury. Undertaker fought through the entire match with charred skin and adrenaline-charged agony. The dark turn wasn't the fire, it was the reminder that even backstage safety can fail and that even the dead man can burn. SmackDown 2010, Rey Mysterio vs Undertaker Orbital Rebreak. 15 years after Mabel crushed his orbital bone, fate brought The Undertaker into another collision, this time with one of the safest performers on the roster. Rey Mysterio's seated senton was routine, a move he'd done safely thousands of times, but an inch too far, a second too late, and Rey's entire body weight landed directly on Taker's already fragile face.
And now Mysterio trying to up the tempo.
The impact drove Rey's hips and tailbone into Taker's orbital region, re-breaking the weakened bone beneath the mesh. His eyes swelled instantly. His vision flickered. The Undertaker finished the match anyway. Backstage, plans were immediately cancelled. He needed surgery. Again, the dark turn wasn't Rey's move. It was the fragile reminder of an old injury that never healed. Royal Rumble. 2010. Undertaker vs Rey Mysterio. Broken nose. Weeks later, fate struck again. During a tombstone reversal, Rey's knees shot upward and slammed into Undertaker's nose with full momentum. Blood poured instantly. The Undertaker continued without hesitation. The break compounded the damage from the orbital injuries, creating a triangle of vulnerability across his face bone, cartilage, tissue. The Undertaker's face had become the battleground of time, and each hit carried higher stakes. He finished the match with a calmness that bordered on inhuman, but backstage he was shaken, not by the pain, but by how fragile the area had become. One wrong move could cost him his sight, and still he continued. Insurrection 2001, Stone Cold and Triple H versus Undertaker, ear tear. Sometimes the darkest injuries aren't dramatic, they're unexpected. During a leapfrog spot, Austin's thick metal knee brace clipped Taker's ear. The cartilage split open instantly. Blood streamed down the side of his head as Taker instinctively reached up, feeling the warm gush. The ref checked on him, but the Undertaker pushed forward. He finished the match with his ear partially torn open.
Stephanie and a low-blown Undertaker, and now the assault begins!
The title's in jeopardy! The title is in...
Backstage, the wound required surgical repair. The dark turn here came from the reminder that even simple moves, routine, basic, harmless, can go wrong in an instant, leaving flesh ripped and bruised beneath the surface. Wrestlemania 30, Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar, severe concussion. If Goldberg versus Undertaker was chaos, WrestleMania 30 was tragedy. The Undertaker entered the match as the immortal Deadman. He left as a man with no memory of the most important match of his career. Somewhere in the early minutes, no one knows exactly where Lesnar delivered a blow that shut Taker's brain down. He wasn't selling, he wasn't acting, he was lost. His footwork collapsed, his reactions slowed, his gaze dulled, and yet he followed the match plan through instinct alone. Lesnar guided him when he staggered, repositioned him when he drifted, and pushed him through the final sequence. When the streak ended, the arena fell into silent disbelief, not because the streak was over, but because the match felt wrong. Backstage, The Undertaker collapsed. Vince McMahon left the show to ride with him in the ambulance, the first and only time in WrestleMania history that the chairman abandoned Gorilla mid-event. The Undertaker later revealed he remembered nothing past 2 p.m. that afternoon. The dark turn was not that the streak ended, it was that The Undertaker was gone long before the match was. Raw 1998, Pyro misfire. Before Undertaker versus Vader, before the Chamber Fireball, there was a smaller, quieter misfire. During his entrance on Raw, a flame burst triggered early, nearly catching The Undertaker's coat and hair. He reacted with a rare human flinch, quick, sharp, instinctive. The flame licked inches from his skin. It wasn't replayed, it wasn't discussed, but the danger was real. One false step and the Deadman would have walked to the ring already burning. The dark turn here wasn't visible to fans, it was hidden in the technical unpredictability of the Attitude Era, where safety protocols were loose, pyrotechnics were experimental, and live TV was a gamble every night. Royal Rumble 1994, Undertaker versus Yokozuna, back injury write-off. This injury didn't come from a botch, it came from time. The Undertaker had been battling chronic back pain, long flights, brutal matches, big man bumps. By 1994, his back was failing. The casket match with Yokozuna was designed as a storyline exit, so Taker could rest, recover, and rebuild his weakening spine. The heels swarmed him, beat him down, stuffed him into the casket, and beneath the theatrics was a man whose body was reaching its limit. The Undertaker missed WrestleMania that year because he physically couldn't continue. The dark turn wasn't dramatic, it was quiet, silent, the slow realization that even legends must eventually face their limits. Across 3 decades, The Undertaker walked through fire, steel, impact, and age, not because he was invincible, but because he refused to stop. His myth grew, but his body broke. Piece by piece, bone by bone, burn by burn, fall by fall. The dark truth of The Undertaker's career isn't that he survived so many stunts gone wrong, it's that he survived them in silence. Behind the aura, behind the hat, behind the legend, was a man absorbing every injury, every scar, every fracture, like currency paid into the myth of the Deadman. And in the end, that's what makes him immortal, not the matches he won, but the ones he barely walked away from.